All right, so today we're talking about how to deal with a toxic work environment where the people you're with don't like you, or there's all this noise around while you're doing stuff you don't enjoy, hanging around with people who are giving you bad vibes, where you're having to work too hard. A lot of people are stuck in jobs where they get the money, but they're doing it at the expense of their well-being, and it's just a very dark environment. So what are you going to do in that situation? Well, one of the most important things to realize is that negative people, whatever they are, whatever they're doing, they're all wounded. Everyone is wounded. We're all wounded. Let's just be honest about that. We're like fallen angels. We've been wounded. And when you realize that, and you realize that they're not just being nasty to you for random reasons, they're being nasty to you because they're nasty to themselves. They probably hate themselves. They're probably filling their minds with junk. They've probably had all sorts of terrible childhood experiences that you don't know about. Yeah, their dreams are probably nightmares. So when you actually look at somebody who's being negative and you have a really good look at them and you find out more about them, you'll find a history of abuse and a history of dark things. And a lot of people are just weak. They've taken that all on and they don't know what to do with it, haven't got the skills to deal with it. All the people they hang out with are negative. So they're basically a product of their environment. So the first thing to realize is that it's not really their fault. You don't want to blame them specifically. If you trace it back, you can't even find the blame really, but there's been some negative things happen. So first of all, we say these are all wounded people and it's not personal to you. And once you've come to that, then you actually go from anger and I hate these people to mercy and compassion, because they're not being negative to you. They just are feeling really, really, really bad. And it's just coming out. So you're having a feeling of love towards them because they can't help it. It's just like Jesus said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. You have to be loving. And that's not easy to do, but it gets easier when you realize that they're wounded, So when you have imagine they're a wounded kitten. I always like to come back to that. They're all wounded children, wounded kittens, and they're upset. They need love. So your job is to be loving towards them, to have mercy and compassion for them, because that's what's going to help turn things around. Mm-hmm. So how do they do that, brother?
Well, you have to have the love to give in yourself, and if you're not merciful and compassionate towards yourself, then you haven't got it to give. It's a very challenging situation. Ego, generally speaking, attacks. Remember, it's the judge, jury, and executioner. It's an attacking thing, and it says in the Course in Miracles that all of ego's attack is a cry for help. So, what help do they need? They need to be seen, in the eyes of truth. Someone needs to see the child of God in there. And the thing is, Emmett Fox said, if only you could love enough, you'd be the most powerful being in the universe. You could care less about your toxic environment if you are madly in love and you just just had the best night you ever had in your life. You just literally had the best night ever. The work isn't going to get you down. So do we have it to give it? That's the thing. And so what we're into is, flipping kind of like the success equation on its head and saying, no, you need to spiritually recharge your batteries every day, 7 days a week, 365 a year. You get up early in the morning, go to bed early at night, get your head, heart, mind, soul, strength into the real deal. Mm-hmm. And then you have power. Then you get some charge.
That's right. And then you can come into work because you've been looking after yourself, and you can give that energy out. And one of our superheroes actually asked this exact question. My advice to her, I spoke to her personally, was that in your work day, there's always moments, isn't there, where you're not doing anything, yeah? If anyone is sitting at a computer, in fact, most 8-hour days, you're only doing 1 hour's work, really, and everyone knows that, yeah? Everyone knows it's 1 hour, maybe 2 hours at the max. The rest of the time, spacing out, checking Facebook, like zoning out, like watching the news, talking to people, yeah? Everyone knows that you're not doing 8 hours work anyway, yeah? So why not practice bringing your consciousness beyond this world? This is why I told her to do it. I said, why don't you go into the light? You know, we talk about this in superhero training, where you can transcend your body and you can experience yourself in the grace of God, in the light, in the bliss. There's a world beyond this world that anyone can tap into in a second, as long as you just know what to do, which is pretty easy. You just realize there's a world, another dimension where we come from, a spiritual dimension. You can feel that in a second. So I recommend that you go beyond, tap into this world beyond the world, where you zoom out, zoom out, zoom out into infinity, and then come back in again, right? And it only takes a second. You know, you can do this when you're sitting in front of your computer. You can just like look up or close your eyes and go beyond, come back, and you feel like you've been on vacation, and you come back and you feel refreshed. Then you've actually got the charge, and then you can just be blessing everyone around you with your energy. Yeah? And if you did this 100 times a day, 1,000 times a day, guess what you'd be feeling? It'd be better than any meditation, it'd be better than any retreat. You'd be right there in your office.
Wonderful.
And I started, when I've only had one full-time job, 8 hours a day, I lasted 3 weeks, and God, I'm glad I never did it again, yeah, that's the extent of my full-time work. But I had to practice this because it was a toxic environment, and frankly, I don't want to be sitting in an office for 8 hours a day. It's just a nightmare. So I practiced going beyond and coming back, going beyond, coming back, going beyond, coming back. I did it literally hundreds, if not thousands of times. And my aim was every day 1,000 times. That's what honestly, I went in and said, how can I do this 1,000 times a day? And I remember having days where I was so blissed out, it was better than my normal meditation. I was like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
So you can do that.
Wonderful.
Yeah.